been around before Roe v. Wade, before abortion was legal in the U.S., and I'm fighting now against the ripping away of the rights of women to control their lives by being able to say, no, I am not ready yet. I do not want to be a mother now. I will make my own decisions. That is what the government in the states and the reactionary fascist politicians are trying to take away as a key part of controlling women. In Latin America, the Green Wave was started by women who came into the streets and said, no, we will not be criminalized because we want to control our own bodies. They stayed in the streets for days and days, and they involved hundreds of thousands of women and men and people who came to stand with them. And they won. They won. They forced the government to back off and not criminalize abortion. And what? And I want to introduce Larry Everest, an author and writer for RevCom.us. He's reported from around the world, Iran, Iraq, India, Palestine, and he's going to talk to us about what's happening in Iran in particular.
We're standing with the tens of thousands of Iranian people who have been rising up courageously to break the chains of women's enslavement in Iran. Mahsa Amini was only 22 years old. She was murdered by the Iranian police. Why? Because a little lock of her hair was showing. Because she supposedly violated the hijab, the scarf rules. In Iran, women can't dance, can't ride a bicycle, can get married at 13 but can't get a divorce without the approval of a male judge. Their votes are counted half of what a man's is. They can't be judges themselves. They have to be supervised by a male to travel. Women in Iran are rising up and tearing off their scarves, burning their scarves, being in front of protests, and they are risking their lives. Hundreds of people have been killed in these mighty, mighty uprisings. And there are revolutionaries in Iran, revolutionary communists, supporters of the revolutionary leader Babavekian, who are saying we need nothing less than a revolution, and that our struggle is a cry to people all over the world to make revolution. This revolution isn't our property. This is a revolution for the whole world in Iran, and we're standing and we are inspired by the women of Iran. People who say that nobody has the courage, nobody has the strength. Look at Iran. And I'm going to be reading a statement in a few moments. Right now, I would like to introduce Christina, who will read the poem from Maya Angelou, which is very appropriate thinking about Iran. Still I rise. And people can go to RevCom.us. They can find out much more. Talk to people here. Sign up. Get connected. We need to be organizing for a real revolution that can really end this horrible oppression of women that is getting worse and worse and worse. Just think about it. If they could be banning the abortion pill any day now in all the states, not just the red states, in all the states. They're coming for birth control. Here we have young girls who are thinking about suicide. Our friends are cutting themselves. This is a terrible situation, and it's got to stop. wait, let me say one more thing here. And look, I encourage everybody to stand with us. If you've got to run to class, come up for 5 minutes. Hold a sign, get some leaflets, be involved. This is International Women's Day, people. If we're not going to stand up for women today, when are we going to? So stand with us today, International Women's Day, March 8th. And, you know, if you have a story to tell, come talk to us. If you want to read a statement, we've got different statements you can read. We need everybody to be part of it. The students on this campus have changed the world before. Now you've got to do it again. And it's even more urgent now that the world's burning up. There's a threat of a nuclear war in Ukraine. White supremacy is running rampant. Misogyny. What, Andrew Tate is a hero? Give me a break. So step up, join with us, stick around for a bit. And here's Christina.
I don't know what that was. Great. I hope that wasn't me. No, here. It's just take one step behind the It's right there. It's right at it.
Hello everybody. Happy Women's Day. I'm just gonna do this poem for y'all. It's Maya Angelou, Still I Rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with bloom? Because I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and just like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes? Shoulders falling down like teardrops weakened by my soulful cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, because I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
All right. Okay, I think Mary Lou, did you want to say a few words?
Well, here, just read the Oh, good. You do what you want to do. Hey, you know what? It's short.
Is this the only Women's Day thing happening on campus?
I mean, up to you. I
think there might be some.
Okay, let's.
Here, just hold that.
But yeah,
You
basically.
know, it'd be neat. We were trying to.
And then there's something at 5, you know, downtown. I'll tell you. It's a
Okay,
rise
let's
up
look at what happened here in the
You
U.S.
do great.
Larry talked about.
Here, it's this. It's right here. There, right there.
Okay, we talked a little bit about what happened to the right to abortion in the U.S. And let me tell you, there are people here last spring, Rise Up for Abortion Rights, that called on people to come into the streets and stay there. Learn from the example in Argentina and Mexico and other Latin American countries. There were tens of thousands, mainly young women across the country here, who came out and said, no, we will fight to keep our right to choose whether or not to be mothers. Because if we don't have this right, we are nothing but incubators. They walked out of school here in New York, week after week in the streets, and raised the demands, abortion on demand and without apology, and forced motherhood is female enslavement. They went up against the Democratic Party and the official women's movement, who said there was nothing we could do, and we would have to get ready for a post-Roe world.
Oh, you're doing that. That's good.
Now, I don't know if the Supreme Court would have backed down if many more people had gotten into the streets, but I do know this. The right-wing patriarchs and the Christian fascists in the state houses and courts, they don't intend to stop until they bring into being Margaret Atwood's State of Gilead as a reality. And the only way of stopping their fascist program, stopping them from achieving this, is getting rid of the system of capitalism, imperialism that spawned it. Now, I don't have time to get into the big picture of why we don't have to live this way.
Oh, now's the time to come
Except the horrendous future barreling toward us, when we have a chance for something much better. A chance to make an actual revolution. As the revolutionary communist leader Bob Avakian, who's known as BA, how he's analyzed and laid this out. You've got to read what he says about the big shifts going on in the world and why many things, including patriarchal traditions that people have taken for granted and many think are immutable, they're rapidly changing. And 40 years ago, Bob Avakian looked at the world, looked at what was beginning to happen, the developing clash, and said, it is not conceivable that all this will find any resolution other than in the most radical terms. The question to be determined is whether it will be radical reactionary or radical revolutionary. Will it mean the reinforcing of the chains of enslavement or the shattering of the most decisive links in those chains and opening up the possibility of the complete elimination of all forms of enslavement? And you've got to read Bob Avakian and how he's further developed the understanding that the degradation and oppression and ability of women to be full human beings is a harbinger and central factor in whether the chains of oppression on everyone are going to be tightened or whether we're going to break free fundamentally.
Okay, thank you, Mary Lou. Remember, today is International Women's Day. If we're not supporting and standing with women today, when are we? So come on, people. And all you men, you can't break all the chains but once. The liberation of women is key to the emancipation of all humanity. There's no revolution, there's no serious change without the full emancipation of women and the unleashing of women as a mighty force for revolution. I spoke before about Iran. Right now, Marissa, who is currently talking to someone from Revolution Books, but I'm going to break into that conversation. We're having fun here, people. And Maria.
We're definitely having fun here.
Wrong button, friends. But did anybody pay attention?
The correct
so. Probably more than when I was talking. Anyway, I want to introduce Marissa. I talked about Iran. Marissa's a student here at Columbia. She's going to read a beautiful poem written during this uprising.
This poem is called Day by Day.
Push it. Go ahead.
This poem is called Day by Day by Saeed Tavani Marvi. Poetry can't stop bullets. It can only swallow hatred or transform you into a beautiful butterfly.
Hold on one second. It's just, I want to get it. I probably did something to it. Let's screw it up here. I can't hear anything.
No, I can't either.
Okay. Let's see, the button's on.
Start again. Start again.
Isn't that thing? Did we actually? Oh, there we go. I probably slowed down.
It's all right. It'll all be forgiven.
This is Day by Day by Saeed Tavani Marvi. Poetry can't stop bullets. It can only swallow hatred or transform you into a butterfly. In the language of your eyes, poetry becomes light. It shines. In the language of your hair, poetry becomes wind. It blows. In the language of your lips, poetry becomes a kiss. It blooms. In the language of your ears, poetry becomes a song. It sings. In the language of your hands, poetry becomes wings. It flies. In the language of your feet, poetry becomes a deer. It flees. In the language of your womb, poetry becomes human. It brings miracles. In the language of your blood, poetry becomes rage. It rebels.
All right. Thank you, Marissa. Okay. Our theme out here today is how should International Women's Day be celebrated in 2023? Should it really be celebrated by empowerment and inclusion in a system of oppression and patriarchy? No! It should be celebrated by coming to grips with the fact that capitalism and patriarchy go hand in hand, and you can't get rid of one without getting rid of both. Should we be celebrating today by making ourselves feel better with talk of all the progress women are making when they're about to take away most women's most fundamental right to choose? To enslave women, and that's their program. They talk about life. Their program is the enslavement of women. That's what it's about. They're just liars. What about a woman's life? They'll be taking away birth control. They're trying to end the teaching of books about gay, lesbian, and transgender people. Transgender people are under brutal attack. Progress, we need to be confronting reality and unleashing women and men and all people as a mighty force for revolution, because we live at a moment when revolution has actually become more possible. People need to get into the work of Bobavakian, watch these new interviews that are on YouTube, the RevComs. There is a way out, and there's a way to a whole different and radically better world. There is hope, but it's hope based on science, not not based on, you know, wishing and dreaming and what this system is telling us. And people here at Columbia need to get with this revolution. We're in a race against time. We've got to spread this leadership and spread this revolution. And I appreciate everybody who's walking by and listening and stopping and you know, taking leaflets and being part of this. But let's get organized, people. Right now, and Christina doesn't know this yet, but I was going to ask Christina to start reading our poem Because, to read the first couple of things.
All right.
Rage. Because they took away your right to abortion and forced your sisters across the country to have children against their will. And because they are coming for birth control next. Because your young sisters still cut themselves, still think about suicide, still get bullied in the halls and shamed on social media. And yes, raped when they dare to trust. Because if you are trans and young, you are hounded by bullies and by those in power in Texas and Florida and America, and you are still stigmatized for being lesbian or gay in 2023. Because you can't even put the word woman in a sentence anymore with the word oppression without some fool raising an objection, while the horror hits worse every single day. Because our brothers and sons and dads and uncles and tios, our daughters and sisters and moms and aunties too, become statistics and hashtags for saying the wrong thing, for making a wrong move, for having the wrong skin in a country that's really been wrong from the start. Because your chances of dying when you give birth in America are over 3 times greater if you were black than if you were white. Because of evictions, because of raising children in shelters, because of fascist maggots with their incitements to violence against women go viral, one worse than the next. Because of pornography being the default sex education for 9-year-olds. Because religious fanatics, be they Christian, Islamic, Hindu, or Jewish, pronounce you unclean and want to dominate and control you even more. Because women and children in Jakarta and Lagos and Mexico City and Atlanta and Kentucky and South Dakota get trafficked and vanish without a trace.
Shame.
Because you're told to brand yourself, think about that word, and to sell yourself with no greater ambition than to someday yourself be a player too. Because the blood and sweat and 12-hour days of billions of sisters in Asia and around the world is ground into your clothes and your phones. Because this system commodifies everything and everyone and is killing us all. Because our world could get blown up or dried up or burnt up by the powers that be for the system they run, and we haven't even had a chance. Because we struggle. Because your sisters in Iran rose up against religious tyrants, cast off their headscarves, and sacrificed even their lives so their sisters could breathe free. And because men joined them across the country, and even giving their lives in the cause of justice. Because your sisters in Mexico rose up against the killings and disappearances of thousands of women a year for the crime of walking this planet with a vagina. Because your sisters in Argentina and Colombia rose up in green, proudly demanding the right to abortion.
Yes.
Because young people in America took the streets last spring when the word leaked out on what the fascist Supreme Court was about to do, and then did. Sorry.
Yes.
Come on, people.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because we're not done quite yet. This is a relay race here, okay? Because we dare to think, to cry out and ask why and defy those who say we are lesser, to resist and struggle, to speak out and shout out no to the madness, to say yes to reason, to laugh and to dream and to work for and fight for a world that we will set free.
Yes.
Because we hope and dream and think for full liberation. Here, just hold that thing. There you go, beautiful. Because bad as it is, with worse yet to come, this system is coming apart, And out of that stench, we can wring something much better. Because we have a plan and a vision for a whole better way, a real revolution with a new communism and a new constitution to uproot the wrongs and put things right. Because there's a way to understand how we got into this situation and how to get out. A new communism with a scientific method we can all learn to wield. Because there's a strategy that we can use to get free against heavy odds. Because there's the leadership we need to wage that great fight. Because as the revolutionary leader and thinker Bavavakian says, there is not going to be any liberating struggle, any liberating real revolution that doesn't have right at the heart of it, at the core of it, the emancipation of women from every way in which they are degraded and debased and oppressed and violently suppressed. International Women's Day 2023. Be there. Shout, struggle, learn, love, be part of the revolution. Revolution, nothing less. And there is a program of Revolution Books on Saturday. This Saturday at 3 p.m., Revolution Books in Harlem, 132nd and Malcolm X. We have leaflets. Come, there'll be culture, food, music. And I hope I'm not promising things that won't be there, but anyway, it'll be great. It'll be a great celebration. Revolution Books, 11 o'clock this Saturday. 3 o'clock, I'm sorry. Oops, 3 o'clock, not 11, 3 o'clock.
I can say a few more words.
Yeah, I have a statement from the
Okay, now, I want to return briefly to the inspiration of women rising in so many places. In Latin America, masses of women have marched on presidential palaces, protesting an epidemic of femicide. A song was born in Oaxaca, Mexico, crying out for the women who have been disappeared. And every day, 8 women are disappeared in Mexico, the majority of whom are between 15 and 24 years old, the ages of most people walking by here. They cried out for the women who had been disappeared, and they wrote a song, and these are the words.
Let's sing it.
Let the state and the skies tremble. Let the judges and judicial officers tremble.
Yes.
Today we take away our calm. They planted fear in us. We grew wings. And think on this for a moment. Can you imagine the strength, the courage of these Oaxaca women who wrote that, saying that, with the understanding that they too could be disappeared, but we grew wings. The situation of people here isn't the same as the women in Oaxaca, but their determination, their defiance, their focused anger has a lot to teach us, a lot to teach people right here. Will you, Columbia students, grow wings to rise above your fear of thinking there just might be a way out of all this madness, and what that could mean for you, and what your responsibility is to the women around the world as well as here. Let International Women's Day 2023 be the day those wings
start to grow. Right here.
Did they tell you about the
I guess
Want to come talk with us? We'll be here for a bit. Get some materials, share materials.
We doing okay? Okay. All right.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Oh, all right. It's all right. Well, I was giving them answers, man. Didn't you hear me?
I didn't get the